Now, not only can we calculate the price of tangible assets in terms of gold, but we can also calculate the price of financial assets in terms of gold. And that's what I've done here on this next chart. This is the Dow Jones Industrials measured in terms of gold grams and ounces of gold, going back to 1913 when the Federal Reserve was created in the United States. Now you can see that this chart is like an oscillator. When the price is down near the bottom, the Dow is cheap and gold is expensive. And conversely, when the price is at the top, the Dow is expensive and gold is cheap. Now, keeping in mind what I was saying before about the cycles and how you balance your portfolio, between investments and between liquidity, when you're at the bottom of the chart, the green line, what you want to do is you start selling your gold in order to make investments because the purchasing power of gold is at its maximum. Conversely, when you're at the red line at the top, you should be selling your stocks and investments and increasing your cash position, but not dollar cash or not euro cash, but gold cash, to preserve your purchasing power to ride the next cycle. What this chart basically does is it shows the boom-bust cycle that is a direct result of the banking system. During, for example, the 1920s, let me just go to the next chart and make this point. You can see during the 1920s, you had the boom. That red line was broken. We had the bust in the 1930s. During the 50s and the 60s, you had the boom. When that red line was broken, you had the bust, and you came all the way back down again. Then in the 80s and the 90s, we've had the boom, and now we're in the bust. But note that we're not at the end of the bust. We still have a long way to go. So that suggests to me that you still want to be holding gold and continuing to accumulate gold at this moment in time, because gold is still cheap, as indicated by this chart, and it's still providing what you need to have at this moment in time, which is protection from all of the risks in the financial system. Another point I want to make about this particular chart, this is an end of month prices, so it doesn't have the price during the middle of the month. But at the bottom in 1930s, 1 ounce of gold was $35, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, believe it or not, was 34. So basically 1 ounce of gold was equivalent in value to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. In 1980, as many of us in this room will remember, gold was $800 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average was 800. So at the end of that bust, again, you had this one-to-one relationship between the Dow and the price of gold. I expect this one-to-one relationship to occur again in the future. In fact, I was interviewed back in October of 2003 by Barron's, which is a financial newspaper in the United States. And one of the things they wanted me to do was to forecast the price of gold. So I explained this particular chart to them. I explained to them the boom-bust cycle, how banks continue lending and lending and lending during the boom until their balance sheets become over-leveraged. Borrowers borrow too much, banks lend too much. A lot of that money goes into bad investments, like too much building of houses, too many houses being built in California, as an example today. And that ultimately leads to a bust where borrowers and lenders bring their balance sheets back into balance, and you create a new base of capital formation, which will then go to the next cycle.